Thank you very much for coming to our campus talk. I'm Christina Madsen, Associate Vice President for Communications, Public Relations, and Marketing, and I want to thank you for joining us today. We do have several speakers. We want to get started right away, and first I want to introduce the SGA President, Kelsey Broderick.
Hi everyone. Yes, like she said, my name is Kelsey Broderick. I'm the current SGA president, but I won't be for long. We actually have our elections next week, so I technically will still serve until the end of the school year, but we'll have a new president waiting in the wings after next Thursday. So speaking of our elections, our apps are actually due today by 4 p.m. to run in our spring elections. And our spring elections are our executive board and then the class presidents and vice presidents. The rest of the positions are open in the fall to run. So they're due today. Our elections are next Wednesday and Thursday from midnight on the 12th until 4 p.m. on the 13th on OrgSync. And we will have voting booths in the Student Center like normal for students to go vote, but please encourage students you know to vote because our voter turnout is dishearteningly low, in my opinion, in the spring, especially since there are fewer people running and fewer spots open. But we actually vote on our Constitution changes that we've passed throughout the year in the spring elections as well. So it's definitely important that students get out there and go vote and have their voices heard. This is representation for our executive board for next year's SGA. So please encourage students you know to apply, to vote, and to have their voices heard. And speaking of some of our Constitution changes, we've actually been working on a large change to our Senate structure to include a graduate Senate. So it's exciting that we've had portions of that pass throughout the past spring semester. Slowly but surely, we've been working on it in parts because it's a pretty hefty change, but we've been passing the beginnings of making a graduate senate to be a technical committee underneath our SGA Constitution and bylaws. So at the end of this semester, we will have it pretty much in place, all of the technicalities passed through our Senate so that we can start enacting that next semester, hopefully. So that's really exciting. We've been researching this, I think, as long as I've been on Senate for the past 4 years. So it's really exciting to get to see it actually come to life. And our graduate senators, especially Ethan Clement, has been working really hard on this for the past 2 years that she's been on Senate. So we're really excited to see what comes with this. I know that it has been successful at other institutions. So we look forward to getting to see how that plays out next semester and the following years to come. So a couple of kind of dates and events that we have coming up in SGA. Dear World is actually going on right now, if y'all saw, outside of the Student Center. It's an event that was brought by Housing, by SAB, Social Justice League, and SGA also as well help contribute. And it's a really cool project. For those of you who may not have heard of it, I encourage you to go look up their video on YouTube after this. But basically, you get to go and kind of share your story with a guide. And they encourage you to write something on yourself with an expo marker. It's easily wiped off. Wherever you want, on your face, on your arms, wherever. And they take a picture of you, so you get to kind of share your story. And it's a cool piece for all faculty, staff, students to participate in. So if you have a moment, stop by the Student Center and share your story and get your picture taken. And I know that they do a big presentation of all of the photos together. I know some people came out yesterday for our VIP session. Mr. Williams was there, he took a picture. So I encourage you all to stop out. It's going to be a really cool project. Another event we have coming up is our open mic night, which is actually going to be hosted by our diversity committee. It's going to be Thursday, April 13th, so the next Thursday, from 6 to 8. And it literally is what it sounds like. It's an open mic night. There's no theme of what you have to talk about, but we're hoping that students will come out and participate. We also have an SGA alum cookout on April 20th from 4 to 6 in the Alumni Pavilion, which is the first year that we've done this. So I'm excited and hope that a lot of alum will come back, including those who maybe have moved out of state and want to come back and hear how we're doing, as well as those who are on our campus. Mr. Erstein, you can welcome to come out, past SGA president. But hopefully we'll get some good insight from those who have been with us before and some that have maybe even just been on their freshman year and are still here and can come out and talk and see what we're doing. So those are just a couple of events we have going on. And lastly, I just wanted to touch on the Day of Giving. SGA was excited to match student donations up to $1,000 this year. So students actually ended up donating $1,142.93. So SGA was able to match up to $1,000 of that. So it was really cool to get to see students participate and our senators. And that's all I have for an update for y'all. Do y'all have any questions? Okay.
Hello, everybody. have just a few things. First off, I wanted to thank everybody that came out last week for the Staff Senate meet and greet. We had a really good turnout, and I got to visit with a lot of folks that were interested in maybe serving on Staff Senate next year, so I appreciate everybody that came out to that. We are currently accepting nominations for senators for the 2017-2018 Senate year. You've probably seen some campus emails go out about that, but if you're interested in nominating someone, if you don't have that email anymore, you can go to the Staff Senate webpage. So it would be uca.edu/staffsenate/nominations. The elections will be held April 25th through the 28th, with the 28th being the date of the spring picnic, which is the last day of elections. So if you come out to the spring picnic on the 28th, you'll have an opportunity to participate in Staff Senate elections. So like I said, the 28th will be the picnic from 11 to 1, and that's going to be at the Student Center amphitheater area like it was last year. So just that whole general area around the amphitheater will be set up out there. The Employee Service Awards are April 18th at 1:40 in the Student Center Ballroom, and the Employee of the Year winners will be announced at the Employee Service Awards. And then the last thing is professional development for quarter 4. We extended the deadline for that, so by the end of this week, we hope to have contacted anyone that will be receiving professional development funds for quarter 4. So, does anybody have any questions for me? All right, thank you.
And our President of Faculty Senate, Dr. Kay McKenzie.
I feel like I should say ditto. We also are in the midst of our elections. We've had our at-large elections, and this week we're accepting nominations for our college senator elections to have our election next Thursday and Friday. If you are interested or would like to nominate somebody, send those to our Faculty Senate Secretary, Kim Escola, and she will make sure that they're on the list. We also have worked on our constitutional changes, and all of our constitutional changes were approved. So those will go into effect, assuming the Board of Trustees approves them in May, so they'll be in effect in the fall. This last year, we have worked, as usual, updating our faculty handbook, and our changes included things such as the change in our Faculty Senate Constitution, as well as something that's been worked on for decades in the past, and that is with the Honors College, the removal of the joint to dual appointments, as well as this year we decided to tie promotion and tenure. That's promotion to associate professor and tenure. Again, if that's approved by the board, it'll go into effect into the fall, at which time all departments will have to review their criteria, because some departments have different criteria for tenure versus a promotion to associate professor. So there'll be a lot of work ongoing next year following up on that. The last thing, two more things. Another part of the handbook that we worked hard on was inclusivity. And by that, I mean making sure that faculty of all ranks, where appropriate, were represented on different university level committees. So we took a hard look on that and changed several of our committees to include different ranks that weren't included in the past. Finally, we have two things ongoing that will probably continue on until next year, and they're investigatory things. And one is, you've probably seen the emails where we're investigating policies on the letter grade system. Currently, we use whole letter grades. Should we do something different? And if we should, what might that be? No decision, just investigatory at this stage. And the last thing we're investigating is a comparison for salaries of our adjunct professors and overtime pay. You may know that last year was the first time adjunct professors got any sort of raise. They got a COLA for the first time in over a decade. And we want to continue that process to look to see if we're at the right price point. Are they paid right, and what should they be paid? And that'll continue ongoing for next year. That's all I have for our update, unless you have any questions of me. Thank you.
And before we move on to President Davis, we also wanted to take this opportunity to give everybody an update on the Strategic Planning and Resource Council. So I'm going to ask the chair, Tammy Rogers, to come on up.
So many of you may remember that the Spark and SPC in particular has done spring forums in the past few years. The committee decided not to host forums this year because we're very new into the new strategic plan that we're working on. And so because of that, I'm just going to give an update, and then I'll also tell you how you can provide feedback to any of the Spark component committees. So SBAC or SPC, we have an online mechanism for you to do that now. So getting started here, actually I guess before I do that, just so you know, from the recommendations last year, SBAC ranked the proposals that had come forward, and 3 out of the 10 ranked proposals were funded at the fiscal year 2017 budget. Those included the 2% COLA, replenishment of reserves, and 4 Tier 1 faculty positions were funded in this year's fiscal budget. For the new plan, SBAC also met in July this past year and made some recommendations. And in this go-around, what we did is we took the items that were presented as part of the Strategic Planning Task Force report, and we ranked them of the ones that we felt would be high impact, immediate effect, and said these are the 6 items that we feel should be funded, if at all possible. And all 6 of those high impact items were funded in this fiscal year. So as just kind of an update here, for those of you who need a little refresher on the new goals, goal number 1 is that UCA will support and empower students to succeed. For most of us, this translates into retention and graduation rates. So items that are currently ongoing and initiatives that are happening that are related to goal 1 are going to either be student success initiatives, retention-related initiatives, or graduation initiatives. The goal number 2 is each student will be prepared to effectively compete in the marketplace upon graduation and demonstrate continued involvement in and contribution to the UCA community after graduation. The initiatives here are going to be things that are aimed at professional development, experiential education, and targeted alumni programming over the long term. Goal number 3 is that we will use clearly defined guidelines to evaluate emerging opportunities for strategic growth and retrenchment. There will be a lot of policy and procedure development that goes along with that over the next few years. And same thing with goal number 4 of UCA will effectively implement the strategic plan. So the next section here, I'm just going to give you an overview of the items that have been funded and any updates that were provided up to this point. We asked for information, so the numbers I have here are going to be effective end of February. There's also additional programming that's going to happen as the semester finishes out. But we thought the best thing to do as far as making certain everyone is aware of what's going on with the strategic plan is to just update you on those initiatives. So the first initiative was to provide book scholarships for Pell eligible students. We have found that they tend to have a higher dropout rate. Frequently it is related to financial distress early on, and so we felt that if we got these students to engage in success-related programming that was being offered, and they would document attending 5 success events during the semester, they would receive a $250 book scholarship for the following semester. So of 700 eligible students from the fall, 47 did complete the Student Success Challenge and received a scholarship for the spring. Students also have that opportunity now during the spring semester, and we'll have an idea of how many of them have completed by the time April 7th gets here, so very soon. The next item that was funded was Project X. This was a diversity-related program. 29 first-year students of color participated, and we are still waiting to see if this has improved retention from fall to fall, but what we have seen is increased participation in the Office of Diversity and Community for additional programming, and the evaluations by the students of how they felt this program went were all positive for the most part. The third thing that I have information on is the Success Coaching Program. This has actually been in existence in part since 2015, but we were looking to expand this program significantly. And so some of the funding here is from Housing and Residence Life, that's the HRL. So we now have 16 HRL-funded peer coaches, 10 coaches that were added out of the Student Success Center, and 2 graduate student coaches that are students in the UCA counseling program. I think the most important thing year to date on this is what I actually put in green at the bottom here. The coaches have had 203 appointments with 198 at-risk students. So these students are receiving peer-to-peer counseling on things that are going to help them overcome challenges that they're facing as they're going through their academic programming. The next initiative, we are part of a 4-year study that's being conducted by a research team at Stanford called the College Transition Collaborative Program. We're currently in year 3. What this program is designed to do is develop interventional programming for at-risk students, particularly freshmen. And so we are at the point right now where students have been participating in an online intervention designed to increase social belonging and academic success for those students. We've collected data for 2 years. That's currently being analyzed. They're going to do follow-up studies this spring with those students as well. And we should receive a full report on how effective this online programming has been with regards to academic success and student retention next year. The next item that I have here is the implementation of Guided Pathways to Success. This is one of the few items that actually did not require additional budget at this time. What we're seeing here, many of you may be familiar with the academic maps. What we're going to be looking at is trying to develop that further to make it easy for students to know what sets of courses they should be taking at any particular point in time and what that pathway is to graduation. This is going to require work on behalf of the academic departments. The next major step is going to be identifying milestone courses so that we can say these are critical courses that you need to get at this point in your curriculum to be successful in the degree program that you've selected. And the long-term goal here is to build these academic maps, guided pathways, into DegreeWorks in the student planner section. So we're going to use a tool that we already have and build it out and make it an even more effective tool for both advising students and for students to have information available to them. The next item is dealing with student orientation. We have seen data that indicates students who participate in an effective orientation program tend to do better. And so what we have done here is expanded SOS. So we added 20 additional student orientation staff members, so that brings it up to 90 students now are on staff for student orientation in the summer. There were 3 additional source sessions added, and there's been additional training for the SOS staff in both April and August. In addition, they provided some enhancements to the existing Welcome Week activities. On this one, as you will see on many of these, there are parts where we've had to freeze the funding due to the spending freeze that we've had in place. So that's impacted some of these initiatives, but we're still moving forward to the best of our ability. The SI program is where we have a student who has successfully completed a course that's been identified as a problem course for students moving through the curriculum. And they basically provide additional tutoring sections and study assistance for students who are currently enrolled in the course that has an SI designation on it. And so current courses here you can see listed there. We have been able to increase the number of SI leaders, but we are starting to run into a problem because this is a voluntary program. Students are not required to participate in the SI portion of their sections. And so while our initial semester data looked very good, it's hard to tell right now because students aren't participating. One way that they're looking to address this is to make SI a required part of the Psych 1300 next fall so that we can again start to see some data collection going on there. Bottom note there, the SI coordinator, because this is soft money, it's not built hardline into the budget, they weren't able to find someone willing to take the position of SI coordinator on soft money. So that was an issue for this particular initiative. We had put money into the allocation as well for college and department level initiatives. For most departments and colleges, the colleges didn't really see this money until August. And so they started trying to come up with programming, but there wasn't really enough of a time for them to come up with things before we needed to have the spending freeze happen. So philosophy and religion, I think, is to be commended here because they did come up with at least one thing that they thought would tremendously help their students, and they hired a student to serve as a tutor in the Tutoring Services Center, but that's been the only college or department level initiative so far. The final initiative I'm going to talk about is the increased access to career development programs offered through Career Services. In the Career Services area, they've hired a new career coach staff position, and that individual has added or enhanced 22 different programs. They actually provided me 5 pages of updates of descriptions of different programs that have been added and things that they have been able to do. Those programs may be extremely targeted. They may target a specific minority. They did one thing for international students only. They have provided programming for each of the academic colleges on different types of career development, professional development activities. Overall, 3,054 students have participated or made contact at one of the programs that was added with this additional career coach, and there have been 304 individual coaching sessions that have occurred with this additional employee in Career Services. So I think that's been a highly effective program, and that's only through the end of February. They're still going. As I mentioned, we now have a way for people to provide comments to us at any time during the year instead of having to wait for a spring forum. And I know they're a little bit hard to see, but what I was going to try to capture here with this is really 3 pieces of information. 1, to access what's going on with Spark, we have a Spark channel still. It's housed within My UCA. So if you want to find us, click on search, enter Spark, and that'll pull up the Spark button so you can go to the Spark page and see what's going on. The top item on that page is now the section that says provide your comments, which provides a link to an online form. In the online form, you can indicate whether you want a personal response. That's also, if you don't wish for a personal response, you can click no right there and it will be completely anonymous from that point. Okay, so you can provide both anonymous comments, you can present comments, concerns, ask questions. Any of that information will flow to the Spark, which is the executive committee, and then be either sent to the SPC, Strategic Planning Committee, or SBAC, Strategic Budget Advisory Committee. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
The spring edition of the UCA magazine is now out. And yes, so the theme was community, but we got to know our new president, Houston Davis, very well. So please go through it. You'll get to find out his favorite music, whether he's a Tupac guy or a Biggie guy. So be sure you pick it up and check it out. And please welcome President Houston Davis.
I have a face made for radio, so it should not be on the front of a magazine, that's for sure. I thank all of you for taking the time to come out this afternoon. It is beautiful outside. The fact that you would come inside is remarkable. So hopefully, I know my colleagues have shared some really good information with you. Hopefully we can get up to date on a few things. Right out of the gate, there were 2 questions that came in to us. One they were both variation on the same theme, and they both had to do with the new concealed carry law. One was really asking, was there going to be some sort of communication regarding where we are, what maybe next steps were, and then the second, the angle was how are we going to keep the campus safe during an era in which we potentially will have concealed carry license availability on the campus, and what does that mean for the rest of the campus that might not have. On the first topic, I am working on communication that will go out to everybody, so just because folks aren't here today, they will not miss this. Really, I think it's probably important, first of all, to stress that this does not mean that immediately just anyone can carry a gun on campus. okay? There's still the requirement that individuals must have gone through a concealed carry licensing process, and there are additional training that is yet to be approved by Arkansas State Police that those individuals will go through. This will go into effect September 1st. We do anticipate that in the coming weeks we'll begin getting information about how Arkansas State Police are going to handle that additional training, what will be the requirements for an individual to have that addition to their concealed carry license, and then we certainly will expect that if anyone is on the campus and does, that they would be able to produce those items. On the topic of how we're going to keep people safe, and that's a good question, whether you're pro or against the particular law. Know this, that our campus police are always, every day, every hour, making efforts to keep us safe. All right? I think that sadly, when you're in law enforcement, they have to assume that everyone is carrying a gun at all times. All right? That didn't change prior to this law, and it doesn't change after this law. So I don't think that anything is going to change from how they both proactively and reactively work with our campus and community. That being said, we do anticipate that we'll be developing a frequently asked questions list, and I would also anticipate that we'll have a campus-wide forum as we know more and get closer to the September 1st implementation date of the new law to allow any and all to come, and we certainly would ask our campus police officers to participate in that. I know that our legal counsel office will be participating, but this is going to be a fluid and dynamic process as we learn more. Again, I think that we're putting something out hopefully in the next day or two on this. It will be chapter 1. And probably what will be 2 or 3 chapters as we move throughout the summer. As we learn more, we will make certain to share. With that, I have a few more things to get to, but I know there may be some questions about that particular topic. I assume there would be more questions about that topic. Well, let me just say this. We will let you know when we know. I think some of you have heard me talk about the fact that my dad's got all sorts of great advice, and it can help you whether you're for or against something like this, that things are never as good as you think nor as bad as you think in life. And he's taught me that with a lot of things, and I'll have to say we'll have measured reactions, but first and foremost, we're going to make certain that our faculty, staff, and students feel safe in the environment, that this is our number one goal when we come to work every single day. And we're going to do everything that we can. We obviously will follow the law, but we're going to make certain to follow professional best practice in following that law. A couple of other things to update you on. One other piece of legislation, it's been a busy session this year, but one that was advocated for higher education was moving our classified employees out from under office personnel and management over to higher education. To where higher education as a sector better manages those decisions regarding employment and other matters related to employment of those classified employees. That has happened. We're very excited about that. If you recall, it was the thing that kept us from being able to move forward on the 2% COLA for our classified employees this last year. We now have the ability under the law to do that. And I want you to know, and I've been working with Kevin quite a bit this spring, that is the number one priority that I have in my budget discussions with the board, is to make certain that the first day we can, in July 1 will be the first, to be able to get that 2% COLA to those classified employees. And we do think, no, don't count chickens before they're hatched, but we do think that all signs point to us being able to do that. We were very appreciative of the legislature and the governor supporting that initiative, and our colleagues at other universities and colleges around the state certainly deserve a lot of credit too. Everyone pulled together on that particular topic. A second thing that I wanted to update you on, is there was all sorts of back and forth there in the last month about potential changes in a wellness program, potential changes toward the ability to be able to access discounts and other things by participating in the wellness program. I think that there was a concern that it looked like there was a punitive and an incentive model that was out there. I wanted to let you know that we are pivoting to where it will only be an incentive-based program. The individuals that opt into participating and completing the necessary steps will have access to the discounted rate as well as the Bear Bucks. More details to come out about that, and then our wellness committee will continue the work toward final implementation of that program. But I do appreciate all the feedback that came to the university during the last 3 or 4 weeks on that particular topic. A couple of other things. The board had a retreat last week. Among the primary reasons, I think, for their retreat was that it happened to be the end of my 60-day period. And I didn't have a pink slip in the desk this morning when I showed up. I've been a little sick, if you haven't heard. But the board was interested in where I thought things were after 60 days. And without boring you to tears, I mean, a lot of what I reported to them that I, first of all, am very, very excited about what I find here. Talking about things across many, many different functions, academic, through our business services, through the student services that we provide for our student body, toward even things like campus safety, thinking about things day, night on campus. It was a very positive sort of report, I guess you could say, that I gave to them. But it led to some conversation about the need for me to establish some goals and objectives that the board could begin measuring me by, and some goals and objectives that my direct reports could be attuned to. Some of those are going to take the forms, obviously, of we are making enrollment certainly as a priority. Not only that we're looking to improve the overall quantity of number of freshmen and sophomores and juniors and seniors and graduate students, but improving the quality of those students as well. I think there will be some metrics and some goals that will come out surrounding that. The commitment to, we really have got to move expeditiously toward capital campaign. We have got to make fundraising of the highest priority, and making a capital campaign a high priority certainly puts everyone in the university on the hook for that, because quite frankly, when you get involved in that, you all become a part of it. Things like academic program expansion. There are some programs that we're talking about putting forward and have put forward to the state. 2 of those programs have trigger words. One is engineering physics and the other is computer engineering. You can figure out what the trigger word in that, engineering. Anytime that a school puts forward any program with those with engineering in it, you can expect that's going to draw some protests. But that's very important to this university. It's very important from an interdisciplinary standpoint across the basic sciences and business and a number of other disciplines, that we be able to have those sort of sister discipline relationships. Those will be very important things for us to pursue in the next year. And I think it's a part of us continuing to build out this concept that we're a truly comprehensive university, that we've got the breadth and the depth of experiences that students need. And then I think that we obviously are going to be paying attention to the fact that we are being good stewards with the funds. We really are trying to get to the point where we feel good about a July 1 budget that is, I think you've heard me say, cautiously optimistic about enrollment for the next year, but knowing that we're going to work with the board to make certain that we don't get into a situation where there has to be any mid-year correction. We want to put a July 1 budget out that we can feel very confident in, and then I would rather pleasantly surprise the campus with new resources during that year to come, as opposed to any sort of drawback. So wanted to at least give you a little bit of the flavor of some of that back and forth. I mean, it was as much about what do I see after 60 days. And as I told them, I'll be amazed at how uninformed I am about UCA at the 120th day when I reflect back on my notes about day 60. So with each month that passes, it gets to be richer and richer content. And then two other things. One that was mentioned earlier about the Deer World event that's going on campus. If you get a chance, do go by the Student Center today. It's amazing. The students and the faculty and staff that are stopping by, it really is to kind of bare their souls. It may strike you as strange to think of what do you want to say to the world and then write it on your body. You see these round tables where we've got groups of students, faculty, and staff. They're really thinking about what do they want to say and what do they want to commit to that film. And it's amazing. I saw a young woman that had, I think is, I know who I am. And then she was flexing her muscle. And it was really powerful, and I was not going to mess with her because it was quite a muscle. It was just a bold statement about, you know, what she was feeling at that moment. We did that event, Deer World, when I was at Kennesaw State, and it was a great community event, and the students and faculty and staff really responded to it, just as I'm seeing happen here at UCA. If you get to do a chance to do that today, do so. If you don't get a chance to, at 8 o'clock tonight in the ballroom, there'll be a bit of a reveal where all those photos will roll through, and it'll be really fun because I think it'll be a great moment to really see who the real UCA is. It's a powerful moment when that's done. So try and do that tonight if you can. Student Center Ballroom at 8 o'clock if you don't have anything else on your regularly scheduled programs. And then another thing just to look forward to, I know it's always a big deal when our Reynolds Performance Hall schedule comes out. Everyone looks forward to the programs. The lineup will be out on May the 9th. And I'm used to, with Bonnaroo, it's a great music festival that Jenny and I love to go to, you always get hints that are put out about bands. Here's the hint that they gave us. We'll have wild parties, wild animals, and wild ideas on the Reynolds stage in 2017, 2018. So there you go. Wild parties, animals, and ideas. So you can start guessing what those might be. Anyway, that's all that I had in terms of things to just share outright, but be glad to answer any questions, get any of your thoughts. And we also will always want to make certain that we make these the most helpful to those of you that take the time out of your very busy schedule to join us. So any questions or thoughts? Well, I'm going to sort of promise that my colleagues will hang out up here in the front. It's like any other conference. Be glad if you didn't want to ask anything in front. Certainly take the time to come up and see us in just a moment. Thanks for taking the time to come out. Christina, I'll turn it back over to you.
I really just have an event for your calendars for the fall in case you're already booking October. October 26th, it's a Thursday at 2 p.m. will be our investiture for President Houston Davis over at Reynolds. So go ahead and mark your calendars, and we hope to see you all there. And that wraps up our campus talk. Thanks for coming.